The person that has significantly impacted my life the most would be somebody that I've worked with for the last 9 years with the student ministry, and that's Pastor Donnie Marsh.
I can honestly say that I think of a man named Kerry Fenton who changed my life forever, significantly impacted my life. He was my youth pastor, he was my music pastor at the church I grew up when I was a teenager.
There was a woman named Van who had a big, huge impact on my life. And when she first came into my life, I didn't know her at all. She was a total stranger, somebody who went to my church.
One of the people that significantly changed my life was a woman that came to my house when I was probably before I was born and as I was growing up. She helped the family out with ironing and house cleaning. There were a few children in our house and the parents were busy, and she would come and spend, maybe not every day, but at least 3 or 4 days during the week helping out around the house.
Kerry saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He befriended me. He believed in me whenever nobody else around me believed in me. He gave me opportunities that others didn't give me, those opportunities. And really it comes down to relationship. That he took the time to invest in me, took the time to get to know me, to speak into my life, and I'll never forget what that meant to me.
The investment that she made in my life, I don't think I recognized until much later on. Although she was a shining example of a woman, a strong woman, who really had very little in her life as far as monetary things, she had a strong faith in her life. Her relationship with the Lord was the utmost. And she expressed that as I saw her daily in very small, very quiet ways.
Van came into my life in 1996, the year my granddaughter was born. We stood in front of the church having her baptized, my daughter and my granddaughter and I. And that night Van called me and said, "You don't know me, but I was so moved by seeing you in front of the church that I feel God's call in my life to do something for you. So I'm here to do whatever you need me to do." And she ended up babysitting for my granddaughter. In spite of the fact that she had a 3-year-old at home and her own business and lots of other obligations, she stepped in and saw a need, and without being asked, she filled that need for us.
When my wife and I started coming to the church, it was pretty new to us. We had tried to raise our kids in a church and just couldn't find a good, healthy church. And our daughter was involved with the youth group as being a senior hire. And she kept saying, "You guys got to come to the church," which we finally did, and got involved with the 40 Days of Purpose program that Riverside had. And at the end of that program, we decided to find a place in the church that was solid, and decided we'll go talk to Pastor Donnie and see about getting on the staff there. And he interviewed us and was quite frank with us and said he's never had anybody as old as us that wanted to be in student ministry, which we thought was funny. But he went out on a limb and got us involved, and we've been there for the last 9 years.
I often look back and think about how one person like Kerry Fenton could change my life, how deep and how significant that impact really was for me, and I don't really have to think very hard. I am here today because of a year that he invested into me. I came to Christ, a relationship with Christ, like I said, because he invested in me and he showed me what acceptance was, and grace and forgiveness and understanding. And he gave me opportunities, like I said, to sing and use the talents that I'd been given, and use those for God, really. I started writing songs about God. I started leading worship in our youth group, and eventually went to Bible college. And it was through all of those things. I remember going to his house for dinners and spending time with his family, and just seeing what being a Christian is modeled through the way he lived. And that 1 year of my life back in 1996 and 97 was the foundation, really. And I wouldn't be here doing the things that I'm doing right now. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, or have the ministry that God's given me, if it weren't for the investment that he made.
But as I look back and reflect, and also talk with my parents and my brothers as to the small nuances of her quiet prayers as she would go about her daily work, or the time she spent with us as children, talking to us and asking us about our own relationships with God. As a young person, you don't often think about that. And now that I'm older, I realize that that investment she made in my life has changed so many things. The prayer that she spent placing to God on my behalf has, I'm sure, made numerous changes in my life as I grew up and as an adult even now.
As I look back at what Van did for us, it wasn't about child care per se. She looked beyond what an external need was to what I had as an internal need. Because although she nurtured that child, Van nurtured me. She showed me what it means to live out God's love. And in doing so, it was such a powerful witness to me that it changed my life. It took my head knowledge of who Jesus was, and it moved it into heart knowledge instead.
He's impacted me quite a bit, both personally and just mentally. It's just being involved with the youth group. It can be strenuous at times, as well as very fun to be involved with it. And it's given me a lot of strength and confidence in what I do. And it's given me the opportunity to give what I have to students. And it's rewarding seeing them, get closer to God, and some of them, get rid of the problems that they've had. And ironically, a lot of their problems are the same things that I had throughout my life.
I've been inspired by this idea of investing yourself fully into somebody else, into another person. This is the whole idea behind one life. And the things that I take away from, for example, what Carrie did in my life, were to model, to mentor, to show people some of the most basic things about living a Christian life, not only by speaking it or instructing it, but by living it. And just taking the time to build a relationship, taking the time to care. I want to be a Carrie Fenton to somebody else, and hopefully to more than one person. Hopefully I'll spend the rest of my life making those very personal investments, those very personal connections.
The inspiration that I have in my life now to invest in others comes from knowing that the prayer life that she showed in her life as I was growing up, and knowing that it made a significant difference in my life, proves to me that my investment of a prayer life for those around me, children that I know and loved ones and extended family and friends, makes such a difference. It doesn't have to be something that they necessarily know about. It doesn't have to be a prayer that they've asked for. But the continual prayer, the continual lifting up of those people to God can change anything.
Van was an inspiration to me in many ways by the life that she lived. But when I look back at what she did for us and what a powerful witness it was, she didn't wait for me to ask for help. She saw a need through God's call, and she went and filled that need, even though it wasn't convenient for her at the time. So I felt really inspired not to just sit back and wait for God's call, but to go out and seek people and places and things that I can do that will meet the needs that I see him having. She helped me to fall in love with Jesus, not just to know him, but to fall in love with him. And I want other people to know him in that way, in a real and personal and significant way. And so I intend to seek them out and do the best I can to meet their needs physically, so that by doing so, they can fall in love with Jesus too.
I've been inspired by it in a couple ways. Probably the most significant is seeing the difference in my daughter through the student ministry and watching how she was growing up, and saw the impact that it had on her. And basically, Pastor Donnie given my wife and I the opportunity to be part of the student ministry. I want to see more children grow up closer to God and basically live their lives the way it needs to be. And if I can help one child, one student become better through the student ministry, then I'll keep doing it.